What's going on, Falcon fans? This is your boy back with you with another video. Today, guys, we're going to talk about the president of football for the Atlanta Falcons and Mr. Matt Ryan himself, what he had to say, um, what we could take about what he had to say, and how do we feel, before we get these things going on, right? We're going to talk about some surprising news about the coach and another team is on the market for a new coach, right? So we're going to talk about that as well. The Atlanta Falcons interviewed another coach, so they're bringing them to see coaches. We're going to talk about that as well. But guys, I just want to get your opinion about what we heard from Mr. Matt Ryan Day. I got my thoughts about what he said and how what I just asked. How do we feel about it, right? Are you positive, negative, or do you think that franchise is going in the right direction with this, first hire, right? They still got two more hires to make, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Atlanta Falcons go forward. But guys, with that being said, if you haven't already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button, so I know you guys like hearing I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So guys, like I said today, we heard from um, the president of football, right, for the Atlanta Falcons. So he was there today with, Mr. Arthur Blank, the president, CEO of the Atlanta Falcons, Greg Beatles. I honestly, guys, I did not know Greg Beadle had been there that long. Greg Beadle was actually there before Arthur Blank bought the team. So what's going on, T Terry? Um, but yeah, Greg Beadle was there for Arthur Blank bought the team. So Greg Beatles, he's been in Atlanta Falcons for a long time. So Tip Sauter, he's been there since 1995. Um, of course, he was there with the sale 2001 when Arthur Blank bought the team. So he's been there. He's earned his stripes, and I guess that's why he's the president and CEO of the Atlanta Falcons. So, shout out to Greg Beatles. According to Matt Ryan, he's been a really great help to him. Getting his feet wet 2 hours later after he signed his contract, he's already doing interviews, for the coaching position and stuff like that. So, shout out to Greg Beatles, man. Um, just want to throw that shout out. Nobody really know, how intricate he was until the Falcons organization, but he's been there longer than any of those two guys that was sitting on the podium with him. So, shout out to Greg Beatles, man. That's really awesome. But guys, what we heard today from Matt Ryan is some music to my ears. I don't know, you guys go back and look at it. If you haven't looked at it, please go look at it and check out. But it was some really music to my ears what he had to say. He has interesting things to say as well, and we'll break all that stuff down. But first of all, we talk about what Arthur Blank said about the position that Matt Ryan is actually hired for, and it was for one thing only, and it wasn't two, it was one, and that was to win football games. So the ideal of Matt Ryan being hired, it was for to win football games. That's why Matt Ryan was brought into the fold, um, and it was about to win football games, right? That's what he was brought there for, right? All the other stuff is going to add to that, right? When you get into the minutia and the hiring, the coaches and the GM and stuff, but Arthur Blank wanted somebody in that he felt like could get the Atlanta Falcons to what sports is all about, and that is to win, right? And you bring a guy in um, like Matt Ryan, a guy that, and his one of his first things he said was um, his, his his position ain't changed when he signed the contract as a rookie in 2008. Um, thinking about that, uh, his position is about winning. His mindset has not changed when he signed a quarterback in 2008 to coming in to be the president of football in 2026. So there you have it, guys. That's one of the things that Arthur Blank talked about. Um, My Ryan Jobs completely is about hiring the next coach and the next GM for this Atlanta Falcons team, right? We talked about trying to find that coach and that GM that share the same vision, right? Don't want it. He don't need to be somebody to have, um, you know, synonymous together. They have to do how to think the same, how to group think, thought, or whatever. Just don't want somebody to be polar opposites on both sides of the spectrum. How you think you should build a team, how you should build an organization. You want somebody kind of in sync to how they think the football team should run. So they actually interviewing coaches and GMs, pretty much synonymous together, right? They trying to build this thing. So when they bring in the coach, they kind of try to bring in a GM at the same time. Somebody, two guys can come in and put this thing together. Not necessarily looking for an offensive minded coach, right? And we talked about that yesterday because if you look at all the guys they interviewed so far, yesterday they had only interviewed two offensive coaches. That was great, Kevin Stefanski and Clint Kubiak. They now have added in Mike McDaniel in. So when you look at that, is not necessarily offensive minded coach. He actually referenced Kirby Smart when he talked about that. When you're thinking about bringing in somebody that's the right guy for this job. And what I took from that is the position he described for head coach. It kind of reminded me of, you look at a guy like a John Harbaugh, right? It's not necessarily somebody that's come in and have to be scheme driven, right? Or this is how I run my defense, this is how I run my offense. No, he wanted somebody to come in that could build a team, somebody that could put a good coaching staff together, somebody that's respected by the players, you know, bringing the whole organization together as a coach. That's somebody that he wanted to bring in. And then right here, Matt Ryan is going to hold people accountable for action. So this is interesting, right? Because I counted, right? The accountability word came up like 4 or 5 times. And it was specifically from Mr. Arthur Blank, right? And what I mean about that is when you look at Arthur Blank, right, and you think about the decision he made last week when he got rid of Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, it's about accountability, guys. Those consultants, when they came in, right, over a few months ago, when they came in and they did a health of the organization and see where it was, I can guarantee you when they came back to Miss Arthur Blank, it was all about these are the things that's happening, but nobody being held accountable for them, right? And Arthur Blank specifically, one of the things that really caught me, he said he want a coach to come in to hold his coaches accountable as well, right? And that's the biggest thing. Like when Matt Ryan talks about he wants somebody to bring the whole organization together, I think Raheem Morris had those traits. He had those traits. He was somebody to come in. He was a well liked guy. He was respected by his players. He really you know brought in everybody, the media as well. He was really you know I just like the way he had guys to be welcoming. He welcomed in everybody. That's the way Raheem was. The problem was the accountability piece. That's where he failed, man. And when you listen to Mr. Arthur Blank, that's where I think when because I said he mentioned it 4 or 5 times. He mentioned about accountability, and then Matt mentioned it. He said the thing is when you got issues and you identify those issues, you need to fix it right away, right? Why let the issues linger over and over again? If you look at our special team this year, right, we had kicking issues, and we had coverage issues, we had field goal block issues, we had return, kickoff return issues. We had so many issues, and it was identified, but you didn't do nothing about it. You didn't hold anybody accountable, right? You want to get rid of the players, right? So you let go of players. You let go of assistant coaches, but you're not letting go of the people that's in charge of those specific areas and hold those guys accountable for it, right? And that's where, you know, us as fans, we can see it and we can see the issues going in. But then when you come into the press conference, you make excuses, and but it's not getting better, right? And some of those issues that lingered over time and time again was the reason we was losing football games. But you're not holding people accountable. You have to identify those issues, and the fact that Arthur Blank mentioned it by 4 or 5 times, just let you know that that wasn't being done before. So when they're going out to find these new coaches and these in the GM, they want to be able to utilize that to hold those guys accountable. I thought that was really, really telling, really, really interesting how they laid that out, and it's going to be interesting who they hire, guys. It really is. Like I said, they hired um, interviewed 6 guys so far, and that's going to be really interesting. Mike McDaniel might be the guy. If you think about it, he could be, right. But when you look at Mike McDaniel's, is he a guy that fit those 3 things that Matt talked about? Somebody that's you know keeps his emotion in check, somebody that can lead a team and bring everybody together, somebody that can bring the whole organization together, somebody that can create a culture. Is Mike McDaniel that guy? I don't know, right? So that's the question. Um, was he that guy in the with the Miami Dolphins? We do know he's really, really versed in his offense. That's what he does really well. Um, he's a good offensive minded coach, but is he a team builder? Can he create build a good staff, to put a good staff together? Can he do that? Does he understand a clear vision for what he wants for the team? Those are the things that when they heard Matt Ryan talk today, is that's what you're asking for. That's what you're asking for. I'm looking at some of the other comments here. Eddie chimed in. Um, they laid out their own. They laid out when Raheem was hired. What's new now? Like I said, Raheem. The thing that different from what Raheem, because Raheem is what Matt Ryan explained today, guys. It's pretty much what they wanted from Raheem Morris, and he brought most of that in. The biggest thing he didn't bring in is what Arthur Blank mentioned 4 or 5 times: accountability. That's what Raheem didn't do. He didn't hold people accountable. When you have issues over and over again, go down the Atlanta Falcon fan base Twitter feed. Just go by it, and you talk about it over and over. The same thing. We was talking about the same issue week in and week out, week in, week out. We're not even football guys, right? We don't do game plans. We don't sit there and study the film over and over and put in game plans week in and week out. But we can see the same issues that was popping up week in and week out, and you ain't holding nobody accountable for it. And if you are holding them accountable for it, it's not working, because we kept seeing the same issues and issues and issues over and over and over again. That's what Arthur Blank was talking about. That's why he mentioned it 4 or 5 times. That was not happening. And Matt Ryan charge is to find somebody that's going to do that. You have to like you have to put people in positions to do what you hired them to do. And if they're not going to do what you hired them to do, it's time to go ahead and make a change. It's okay. I hired you to do this. I thought you can do this, but obviously you can't do this because it's not being fixed. So we're going to go in a different direction. That's business. It's not about loyalty. It's not about being a friend. It's about being, I hired you to do this job, but the job ain't getting done. We kind of forget about the first New England dynasty, right? When they went to the 3 Super Bowls, and they came out with a little documentary, and it says "Do your job," right? That was the whole thing, was do your job. Bill Belichick always told his players to do their job, right? And that's what you get paid to do. I'm not asking you to do somebody else's job. I'm asking you to do what you was hired to do, right? If you're a left tackle, you're hired to protect the quarterback blind side, right? That's what you're hired to do. You were hired to get off the ball in the run game, and you hired to pick up blitzes and stuff like that. That's what you hired to do. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to do something above and beyond. I'm asking you to do what you was hired to do. Everybody get paid to play in this professional sports, and you get paid to do a particular job. And if you're not doing that particular job, you need to be held accountable. And as a coach, you hired your players. I mean, you hired your coach to get the players to do certain things, right? Now, if the players ain't doing what it is, replace the players. But in this case, if the coaches ain't doing what you asked them to do, and we keep seeing the same week in, week out, weekend. I mean, how many times we seen the Atlanta Falcons give up kick coverage, and it cost us the game, right? It happened in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis game. We gave up a return that put them in range to tie the game. The Jets game, we lost that game because of a kickoff return, right? We muffed a punt. We muffed a punt return in that game, right? The players did it. I get it. I'm tracking, but the coach is ultimately in charge of that team. If you're the special team coach and your special teams keep messing up, I'm going to replace you. And he didn't do that. He didn't hold accountable. He kept going in weekend. And if you, like I said, if you listen, the media asks the same question: are we going to see any changes with special teams? No, we're not going to see any changes. We're going to fix it. How are you going to fix it? It happened. Then the next week, guess what? A block field goal, and the Rams run it back for a touchdown. Right. The very next week after you say you're not going to change something, it's not holding people accountable, and that's why Raheem is gone. It's not because he wasn't a good team builder and he didn't resonate with the guys in the locker room, and he had that temperament to be, steady all the time. All those you can see all those qualities and the character in Raheem Morris. The problem was he was not willing to make any changes and do what he needed to do to make sure what the ultimate goal is to win football games. And that's where he compromised himself, right? Because it's about loyalty and all, and that's the issue. When you're in the business, it's not about loyalty, it's about the end result. That's what it's all about, right? Do your job. That's what you get hired to do, right? Raheem Morris decided that he was going to hire a defensive coordinator and he was going to hire an offensive coordinator. He was going to be the guy that oversees it all, right? That's what he decided to do. And in that instant, when you decide to do that, when those areas are lacking, you have to make sure that they're up to par, because you're not running that. You're the overseer of it all. And if those areas are lacking in certain areas and things like that, you're not willing to do it. So another issue was, think about it. After one game, a blowout against Carolina, he fired the wide receiver coach. It had nothing to do with performance. And that's what he said. It was personality driven, disagreement with the coach, player. I don't know what the total agreement was. We probably would never know what actually happened. But it had nothing to do with performance, because it's in 1 week time, the performance, when you win a game in Minnesota against the Minnesota Vikings, then the next week you get blown out against the Carolina Panthers, and then you fire the wide receiver coach and you said it was performance based, right? That's what he said. So he lying, because it's no way in 1 week time it's performance based. You had disagreements, personality and stuff like that, right? Because one of your coaches decided to disagree and you decided to make a change there. And then look what happened after that. Only one receiver excelled the rest of the season, and that was Drake London. You get rid of Ray McCloud. We don't know what happened to Darnell Mooney, right? You start to have Casey Washington, who was going through training camp, being that second receiver all through training camp because Darnell Mooney was out, and then all of a sudden Casey Washington's getting inactive, and you bring in David Steels, right? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? It was dysfunction. Something was going on, and it was maybe he didn't have total control of his coaching staff. And maybe he did lose some players in the locker room. Because I can tell you this, why did Ray McCloud get dismissed? Because he didn't agree with the idea of getting rid of your wide receiver coach after one game. And then Ray McCloud get an inactive. Then he get cut from the team 2 games later. It all lines up. The reason why we're in this where we're at today. That's why where we're at today, right? Let's see here. Got some more comments here. Terry says Josh Blanks is about to take over real soon. They mention him a lot. Yes, I think he's going to take over for Pops, right? He don't. I didn't know this. He was working with the NFL, working in the NFL for a couple of years. Now he's come back home to be part of the Atlanta Falcons organization. Yes, and I can definitely think, and he's definitely part of their hiring committee. He's there with Matt Ryan, with Greg Beatles, going through the interviews for the coaches and the GM. So I do believe he's going to. You're right. I think you can see him starting to take over more of the realms. Because Mr. Arthur Blank is getting old, man. He really is. And said basically you're looking at the face of a coach, but they have failed miserably in that last decade and fired based on statistics. Just saying. I'm being honest with you. When I listen to Eddie talk, man, like knowing he a Cowboy fan and he trying to like tell me about the Atlanta Falcons, it's like, what you talking about, dude? Dude, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys have failed miserably for the last 31 years. So like honestly, the Atlanta Falcons did go to the Super Bowl and the divisional playoffs at least 8 years ago, right? They have more success in the last decade than the Cowboys have. So like they haven't failed miserably, right? Because they went to the Super Bowl in 2016, right? And they went back to the division round the year after. So they have not failed miserably in the last 10. They have not. That's not true, right? The Dallas Cowboys have, right? And look who's leading there. Who's leading. So it's just like, come on, man. Like honestly, seriously, don't talk about we failed miserably and you represent a team that ain't did shit in like 31 years, right? Y'all living on y'all 90s Super Bowl. So like they went to the Super Bowl in 10 years ago, dude. So they have not failed miserably, right? This last 5 years have not gone the way it needs to go. I do agree with that, but they have not failed miserably. And they're not looking at statistics. They're looking at results, wins and losses. That's what they're looking at. They're not looking at statistics because statistics does not matter. It matters about wins and losses. You can, and Raheem was so good at saying this, statistics are for losers. That's what he always say. Well, the only statistic that really matters is wins and losses. That's what really matters, man. That's what really matters. And we went 7-10, 7-10, 7-10, 8-9, 8-9. That's the statistic that matters. We're not winning. Matt Ryan was brought in for one reason only, and that's the first thing Arthur Blank said: to win football games. You're right. If we was getting field goal point blocked and they running kickoffs back on us and we missing field goals and we're still bad on third down, and we can't stop the run, but we still winning games, none of this would matters, right? Because we winning, right? All that stuff will still be taking place, and we'd be winning, and Raheem will still be here. Terry Fontenot will still be here. The problem is they're not winning. That's the only statistics that matter. So they're not basing off statistics. They're basing off wins and losses, and he ain't winning. He didn't win. That's what it boils down to. And you want to be able to put somebody to win. And the truth be told, the reason why you wasn't winning because of those things I just mentioned. And it wasn't like it was a one offer. It was happening over and over and over again. Right? That's why they was winning. In the Raheem Morris era. In the Arthur Smith era, it was different reasons, right? It was a quarterback. And I can honestly say in Arthur Smith era, one of the main reasons the Atlanta Falcons was not winning was the quarterback position. In the Raheem Morris era, it was not the quarterback. It was all the other stuff. Third down percentages. Special teams horrible. Can't stop the run. Those are the reasons why we lost in the Raheem Morris era. I'm just saying, man. So they didn't fail miserably. I just hate that statement. They did not fail miserably. Sometimes it's always coaching. You can consistently make changes and execution. The biggest failure with how fast these you young coaches want the scheme to make much too fast. I don't think it had nothing to do with the scheme. I think it had all to do with holding people accountable. This is why firings are at an all time in recent years. Just saying they're not winning. That's why they're all time high. They're not winning, man. That's 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 why you get into sports, man. You get into sports to win, right? You get into sports to win, and they're not winning. He said this is why firings is all time high. The recent folks can sell themselves good, but they can't follow through. Yeah, Raheem is that guy. He said Raheem sent Ray home like he was like, yeah, cause Ray was coming in about firing Ike Hilliard, man. Like after one game, come on, man. Like honestly, think about it. See, this is why it kind of irks me a little bit. You think about it, right? Ike Hilliard, they had one bad game, and after one bad game, Ike Hilliard got fired. Like we had multiple games where special teams was screwing up. Like every game we had a special team error. Every game, and Marquise Williams kept his job the whole year. The whole year. We're going to 4 game lose streak where our third down percentages, like we went 2 for 15 one time on third. I forget what game that was. 2 for 15 on third down. Like, come on, man. Come on. How you going to win like that? And that's the stat. That's the reason you lose because you go 2 for 15 on third down. Your defense is on the field forever. Like that's the stat. Boy, game on the read correctly. Can stop bringing up the Cowboys? I love. No, I'm just saying. You said we felt miserably. I brought up the Cowboys because you said we were miserable. I had to throw your Cowboys in there because they felt miserably over 30 years. Ain't even been an NFC Championship game. Raheem needed a scapegoat, and that's all. He definitely did need a scapegoat. He should have fired Zach Robinson. He should have fired Marcus Williams. I guarantee you, if you'd have made them decisions, he'd probably still be the head coach today. You said what organization does hire people to win? You're right. Does not hire, but yeah, exactly. That's what they do. They hire they hire coaches. They hire GMs to deliver the goods. That's what it's all about. Oh, you said the coaches failed miserably. Yes, my bad. If that what you meant, if that what you meant, I'm sorry I went on your Cowboys. If you were talking about the coaches failed miserably, yes, the coaches have failed miserably to deliver the goods. And that's why this change is there. I'm glad you corrected me if that was the case. Sorry about that. All right, guys, what I really want to do is it's one thing that it's actually a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, and I actually got it on my signature page when I send emails and stuff out. And I always liked this quote, right? Because when I think about leadership and I think about what the president of football, Matt Ryan, is kind of putting himself in, is this is where Matt Ryan was put in place to be, right? They made sure they emphasized that it was not to put him in place to be the GM. He was not put in place to be the coach, right? He's not there for those reasons. Arthur Blank made it. He said something in his press conference last week where he said that yes, he is the owner, but he know what he doesn't know, right? That's why he brings somebody in to do that knows football in to put in that position, right? Because he want to make sure that when he hire when the person that hires the new coach and GM, they understand that they can talk that football speech. Arthur Blank admits he don't talk football, right? That's why he hired people that put in place to talk football, right? But Matt Ryan wasn't put in place to make sure that scouting and bringing in transactions and things like that. That's not why Matt Ryan was brought in. He was brought in to find the guys that do that really well, right? And he, after Brian mentioned that, find the best of the best, right? So you're trying to find the best GM to be the GM, right? You're trying to find the best head coach to be the head coach. They want to make sure that the candidates that they're interviewing understand that Matt Ryan is there to be over that, to make sure those guys are doing what they're hired to do, right? That he wants to hire the correct GM. He wants to hire the correct coach. But he wants those guys to do their job, what they was hired to do. That's what it boils down to. And this quote here, in my estimation, speaks to that. And it speaks about leadership all day. Hold on, let me pull it up here for you. And it says the best executives is the one who has the sense enough to pick good man to do what he wants done and the self restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it. Listen to it, guys. The best executives, they have the sense enough to pick the right people to do what he wants done. The overall key here, we wants to win, right? So he picks the right people to get what he want done. But then he have the self restraint to stay out of the way. I hired you to do your job, so I'm not trying to be the GM. I hired you to be the GM, so I want you to pick your staff to make sure that when we put the right team together, along with the collaboration with the coach, that's what you're going to do. And then once we put those people together, I want the coach to go out and coach those guys to get the end result, which is a W, right? And build this culture where it's all about winning. But I'm not meddling. I'm not gonna get in your way so you can do what you need to do, right? That's why I like how Arthur Blank structured this, and they emphasize and they make sure that they his position, Matt Ryan position, is not to be the GM. It's not to be the coach. It's somebody that's going to make sure that you put people in place to do those things and to do those things well. But I'm not meddling unless you make me meddle, right? And how you make me meddle because you're not doing what you was hired to do, right? That's where it really boils down to. One thing that Matt Ryan said is that once you see a problem, identify the problem and you fix the problem. You don't let it linger and let it get worse and worse and worse, right? Look at the Green Bay Packers, right? They had been, you know, through the season losing leads at the end of games, right? And what happened? It reared its head right? The last time they played Chicago, they had a lead, they blew it. Come back in the playoffs, they had a lead, they blew it. The Baltimore Ravens was a team for known. Matter of fact, John Harbaugh was known for giving up leads. I think he had gave up the most leads in the last couple of years in the fourth quarter, right? Those are trends that you see. You identify issue and you fix it. And when you get to a point where it's not being fixed because of stubbornness or you get complacent and stuff like that, it may be a time for a change. And that's what was happening with some of these coaches that get let go because it's time for a change because issues been identified and it's not getting better, right? So you put the right people in place to do it. You stay out their way and let them do it. But then if they don't do it, you need to make a change, right? Um, this quote is from Theodore Roosevelt. This is not my quote. It's from one of our old presidents, Theodore Roosevelt. And I always liked it because, I hate when people hire you to do a job and then they try to micromanage you and don't let you do your job. And then when it don't work, you be like, because you've been on my shoulder the whole time. Like, or do you want me to do the job or do you want to do the job? Right? That's what it's all about. So I love this quote. Um, I think about it a little about it for a long time, you know, and in my other professions and stuff like that. But I think it means a lot when you think about the position that Matt Ryan put himself in, um, coming back to be the president of football for Atlanta Falcons because he emphasized it over and over again that he's not the GM, he's not the coach, but he's making sure those guys doing what they're hired to do, right? And I like that because whoever the GM is, you still it's your job to put the best team on the field, give the coach per se the groceries, you know, to go out and cook like he need to cook, right? That's what it's all about, and hopefully, he can find the right candidates. So once again, if you guys want to take this quote, and that's cool with me. But like I said, that was one of my favorite quotes that I actually had a lot, and I think about it because this is what you want in a leader, especially when he hires you to do a job. You want him to get out of the way and let you do your job, right? And that's Matt Ryan's position. That's why he's here. He's job is to pick these people, put them in place, and then pretty much get the hell out of the way and let them do what they're supposed to do. And if they need his help, he can assist in any manner he needs to. Um, so somebody said fuck the Eagles. That's right, fuck the Eagles. I really don't have nothing against the Eagles, man. I don't care. I don't care. Only thing I kind of respect the Eagles, man, because they drafted a lot of Dallas Cowboys. I mean, Dallas Cowboys, a lot of Georgia Bulldogs, right? They drafted a lot of Georgia Bulldogs, so I kind of like the Eagles. They kind of the Georgia Bulldogs of the NFL. If you look at their roster, so I kind of like the Eagles in that standpoint. But Eagles made change today as well. They got rid of the offensive coordinator. Um, it don't seem like he's going to actually, you know, be out of the organization. They say they might move him to another role, so that's going to be interesting how that works out. But they decided to get rid of the offensive coordinator. So some of these coaches, guy like Mike McDaniel, right, and Clint Kingsbury, those guys, if they don't get head coaching jobs, you can see those guys definitely being offensive coordinator somewhere. You know, Tampa Bay need an offensive coordinator. They interviewed our former offensive coordinator in Zach Robinson. Um, the Baltimore Ravens going to need a new offense. All the new teams that got coaching positions probably going to need new offensive coordinator. So, um, these guys that got fired as head coaches that got some brilliant offensive minds, like a Cliff Kingsbury, like a Mike McDaniels. Those guys, they don't get a head coaching job, they'll probably be offensive coordinator somewhere. We know Mike McDaniels already interviewed for the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator position, so um, we'll just have to see how that pans out for those guys. But it's going to be interesting to see how this coaching side that could go. Unfortunately, like I said yesterday, I think we're going to have to wait until um, John Harbaugh get hired. We have to wait till John Harbaugh get hired. Eddie said the Georgia Eagles, but misutilized this season badly. I thought the defense played well, man. I thought the defense really, because most of those guys on the defense side of the ball, and I thought the defense. I really believe that the the Eagles not using their offensive talent the way they need to utilize it. And I don't know if you go back the way Kellen Moore had Eagles looking last year, right? Um, that offense was really good. It was really good last year, right? Of course we know because Saquon Barkley almost broke Eric Dickerson record, right? And then of course Kellen Moore get hired by the Aints, and they bring in a new offensive coordinator, and it looked completely different. So that just goes to tell you coaching does matter, right? Because the same team came back and the offense looked completely different than we had another coach in there. So coaching matter. Coaching does matter. That's why you look at the Atlanta Falcons, and everybody wants to already give up on the quarterback, but maybe if you get a coach in there that can coach him up properly, um, you can see a whole different side of the quarterback, and maybe the offense can get to where it needs to be. So those are some of the things. Hopefully, whoever the new coach is can see that and bring that in. Um, One thing we didn't talk about today, and that's Mike Tomlin. Right? I did not bring Mike Tomlin up, um, and it was for really one reason and one reason only is because yes, he did step down. And I'm gonna be honest with you, when I first seen he step down, my first thought was Atlanta Falcons just go ahead, stop our interviews, and offer Mike Tomlin the job right away, because the guy that Matt Ryan described when he talked about who he's looking for as a coach, he described Mike Tomlin, right? He described John Harbaugh, right? Those are guys he described, guys that can build teams, you know, that build culture for years, be able to put a staff together. Both of those coaches done that for almost 2 decades, right? So when he described the who he was looking for as a coach, those are the first two guys I thought about. Both of those guys, 100%. Like I said, and then Mike Tomlin come in, I'm like, yes, like stop all interviews, call Mike Tomlin because you already made all the running rules and all that stuff. Call Mike Tomlin and be like, hey, do you want the job? You hired, right? And you don't even know what. Hey, just do what you need to do. Bring your staff in. Hey, we trust you, right? Um, but unfortunately, that's not the case because he stepped down. Um, the Pittsburgh Steelers still own the rights to him, so it'll be more like a Sean Payton scenario where um, they would have to trade for him, and the Falcons have to give up something to get him. And in that case, the Falcons don't have nothing to give up, man. They just don't, right? They only got like 5 draft picks. They don't even have a first round draft pick. We all know that. They need to build their team out, so they can't be giving up draft picks to go get the coach. It would be nice, but you know, I don't. I know we're not getting one of our young talented players or nothing like that. We need to keep all we can keep to keep Mike Tomlin. I mean, to keep our team where it's at. Right, it's a young, promising team, upcoming team, but we don't need to be giving up draft capital and stuff like that to get him. It would be nice if he just, they tell him he can leave, and they don't have rights anymore, and then he can go. He want to go. However, I just believe that Mike Tomlin is going to sit out a year. There's been talks about that, him going to do TV and things like that, and maybe he need to take a break. 19 seasons as the head coach. Maybe he need to take a step back and and look at the landscape of the NFL before he gets right back into coaching again. Um, you know, it's a lot of different reasons why he stepped down. One of the reasons because you know this report about Josina Anderson was saying that he didn't feel appreciated anymore. With the team, so that could be the case. We heard other things saying that he wasn't ready for the rebuild. Right? If you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, um, they are an older team, right? Cam Hayward, T.J. Watt is not getting older. Jalen Ramsey, you know, a lot of those guys are getting long in the tooth. So when you look at that, you know, is he willing to sit back? And the biggest problem, in my opinion, that Mike Tomlin had is his own success, right? He was good enough to always not be picking in the top 10, for he can get a young quarterback to come in to groom. So, they never fixed that quarterback position after Roethlisberger, whatever his name, I can't think his name, um, Roethlisberger, right? Retired. They never fixed that position. They tried. They brought in Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph. Of course, they went with Justin Fields. Of course, this year Aaron Rodgers, and none of those things panned out for them. So, um, I think they're in a rebuild mode now, right? That's really the direction they should go in, and they should probably be selling a little bit, right? Guys that's long in the tooth, like a T.J. Watt, like a Cam Hayward, those guys, Jalen Ramsey, because at this point, it would be smart for them to kind of just go ahead and start the rebuild, right? Um, think about the Pittsburgh Steelers since 1969. They only had three coaches, man. So they don't even know how to, you know, to build, to search for coaches, because they haven't had to do it that many times, right? Um, and I anticipate them bringing in a coach that can build teams and be ready for a rebuild, and find another Mike Tomlin. We talked about a couple of guys yesterday that Atlanta Falcons interviewed, guys like Anthony Weaver, guys like Aiden DeRay, um, those young guys like that can go in and maybe be, um, the next Mike Tomlin, right? We all know you pick Mike Tomlin, who never had any coach experience, came in. His interview blew the socks off, the Roonies, and they made him a coach. And look, 19 years later, he's decided to step down. So, um, but that organization in itself, which adds another team that need a coach now, which brings our total to 9 vacancies, right? And I just hate to say it, man. The longer you wait, the less likely you are to get the top candidate you want, because some of these jobs are more attractive than others. Now we know for a fact that I don't think the Steelers job is that attractive. I really don't, um, because they don't have a quarterback. They got a little older, aged team that's there. Um, they need to rebuild. Now that you got rid of your coach over 19 years, I think they need to turn their team into a different direction and start a rebuild. Right. So a coach come in there, and like I said, you get a young coach come in and be willing to rebuild with that guy. Um, that's the direction they probably should go. Um, but then you got teams like the Raiders, who got the number one overall pick. I really don't know the Raiders cap situation. I have to go look at it. Knowing that you're going to draft a quarterback there, a coach coming in willing to have his pick of the quarterback and build a team with the young quarterback going forward, right? And like I said, depending on what cap space they got, can they build a solid roster? We know the Tennessee Titans, it was reported they got over $100 million in cap space, right? They already got their quarterback in tow, and they could actually put a nice team together, right? With that much cap space. So Tennessee's there. The New York Giants, we know they feel like they got their future quarterback in Jackson Dart, right? So there you have it with that coaching open vacancy. The probably most attractive is with Lamar Jackson. with the Baltimore Ravens, right? They have a 2-time MVP there, quarterback, still, still in his prime. So you could use that. That might be the most attractive. You got the Arizona Cardinals. They got a quarterback dilemma. What they're gonna do with Kyler Murray. Um, the Cleveland Browns. We know their quarterback situation. They got Deshaun Watson still there. They got two rookie quarterbacks that they drafted. They're picking number 6 overall this year. Um, it's no quarterbacks probably in this draft that they would pick at number 6. Because after Mendoza goes probably at number 1, um, you won't see another quarterback going that quick. They got another pick in the 20s, right? Because they got the other pick from Jacksonville. So they got 2 picks in the first round. So what their rookie class that they had this year, which was a really good solid rookie class that the Cleveland Browns um put together on offense and defense side of the ball, being able to have 2 draft picks in the first round, they could continue building that team, right? They just need to figure out their quarterback situation. So, you know, depends on how coaches feel about you know that ownership in the front office. That could be enticing job. The defense is solid there, 100%. You know what you're getting out of that defense. So there you have it. And then you have our Atlanta Falcons, a really talented roster. The only question mark in my mind is the quarterback position. Um, it sounds like when you listen to Arthur Blank, you listen to what Matt Ryan said today. Michael Penix is the guy that they're looking moving forward. However, you know, time to tell with that because, like I said, we have not got the GM, we have not got the coach in place, and those guys are really going to be decide what happens with Michael Penix, in my opinion, and how it should be, right? Because those guys got the ones that got to build a team, and those guys the ones got to coach the team. So you don't want to tell those guys what they're going to do with the quarterback position, right? You're going to ask, when you're hiring the guys, what you think about Michael Penix, and hopefully they truthful about it. I don't think he's the guy, but when I come in, we're gonna try to find the guy. Or yes, I think he's the guy. I think I can work with him, and we're gonna try to build around him. We don't know, that's what they could be thinking about, but those are the questions. Hopefully, Matt Ryan and the team of guys that's trying to hire these candidates are asking, trying to figure out their vision, you know, at that position, because I think that's important. But um, there you have it, guys. 9 openings now. 9. So, wow, it's crazy. That's nine positions for coaches, and if you look at the coaching pool, it's not a lot of guys, right? Um, I think the Atlanta Falcons got 3 more guys that they're thinking about hiring. Like I said, um, they're going to interview the defensive coordinator from the Carolina Panthers. I think they're also going to interview the defensive coordinator from the Green Bay Packers and the defensive coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers and Robert Saleh. So, like I said, it's not necessarily that they're hiring offensive minded coach, which you would think a lot of us. I know a lot of us fans want them to hire somebody that's going to get the offense right. But hopefully, whoever they hire, he can hire a good staff that can be, the so-called quarterback whisperer to get the offense and the quarterback right. So that's what we're hoping to see. Um, but I don't think we'll have a new coach for another week and a half at the most. Um, they need to kind of speed things up though, because you know the All Star games are starting to come up. You got to get your scouts in place, you know, to come back and get ready for the draft and stuff like that. Usually those meetings go in February, right after the Super Bowl, because you're trying to build your draft board and stuff like that before March when free agency kicks off, so you can get an idea of you know um, what kind of players in the draft and what you might need to target in the free agency, right? Because if for an example, if it's a good draft where a lot of receivers, a lot of good edge rushers and things like that, you're gonna take advantage of that, right? So that's some of the stuff that you can kind of look at and consider. So if it's a lot of edge rushers in the draft, right? You're like, okay, we see a lot of edge rushers in the draft. We can find us some more edge rushers. Not saying they need edge rushers because I think we're good in that spot, but just say defensive tackles, right, or receivers, right? Because there's a lot of receivers coming out this year in in the draft, right? We're not going to try to get in receivers in free agency. We're going to pull some from the draft, young guys. We can pick them in the third and fourth round that we think can contribute to this team, right? So in free agency, you're going to look at a different position, something that you need. That's why in February you start to build your draft board and things like that. So when free agency happened, the new league year happens around that middle March time frame. You know what you're looking for in free agency. That's how they gonna have to look at it. That's why you got to get your GM and your coach in place before you can start, finalizing that stuff. Because believe me, Terry Fontenot was already working on all that before he got fired, right? His staff was already laying all that stuff out. Now the new GM, new coach, got to come in and play catch up. So that's why as soon as they get these guys in place, they need to take their time and hire the right guys. But as soon as they get these guys in place, that's what they need to do. Um, let's see, read some of these last comments. Then we're gonna get up out of here, man. You said you keep saying Harbaugh. I hope you know that New York Giants met at his home this past weekend, and he's highly interested because of Dart. Yeah, but he ain't signed. Like you can meet all you want, but if you haven't signed the contract yet, that means you're still looking at other teams, right? Because if he was sold on that meeting, the interviews would be over. So the fact that he's going to talk to other teams, that means he's not 100 completely sold, right? That's what I'm saying. Because when you come in, like if it's a done deal, he wouldn't talk to anybody else. Um, I agree, higher tone so he can bring Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith is not coming, man. And I can tell you right now, they bring Arthur Smith back, man. That'd be freaking insane. Even though Arthur Blank said he's not going to meld it with his staff, man, that'd be crazy though. They actually pay straight cash, not a draft pick. Just look it up. There's a different scenarios for draft pick compensation years later. Okay, they pay cash. Arthur Blank probably can do that then. My light keep going out, guys. I need to charge it again, so get up out of here. Do you think Matt want Kurt back? No. That's why he didn't even mention Kurt. You noticed that, right? They did that deliberately. Um, it says Raider got the second most cap space. Continue to build. See, there you go. Right. That's why I say it could be a trade job. They're gonna have their young quarterback. They got a lot of cap space. They can build a team out. Um, Tennessee has the most cap space. Yep. So those two jobs, like I said, if a coach coming in, especially for the young coaches, right? They come in. Um, he says Michael Penix Jr. had the doctors there. Mr. Blank could buy the world, so he's going to be good. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. They actually got a little mini hospital attached to a Flowery Branch, right? You guys know that, right? So they got a good staff there. Um, so they're gonna make sure that you heard Matt Ryan say he walked by the gym and Michael Penix Jr. was already in there, doing his rehab. He's gonna be ready, guys. Just don't know when he's gonna be ready, and that's really gonna determine, you know, also the direction this team goes in at quarterback position. How far along is Mike, and will he be ready for training camp? They already know who they like as the new GM. He still is in the playoffs. Yeah, that's what they said. But then they said they kind of threw me for a loop where they said that ooh, what's that? What's that? Ooh, shit. That's crazy. threw me for a loop today when they said that they haven't did any GM interviews yet. So we'll see, man. All I know is I think you're gonna hear the GM and new coach hire probably right within like a day or so, a day apart when you hear about it, because they did say they're doing these you know hires concurrent, right? So they're trying to do them at the same time so they'll align together. That's what Arthur Blank mentioned. So we'll definitely get to see that play out. But I do agree with you. I think the GM's probably still in playoffs. I still think it might be Ian Cunningham, right? But we don't know. We really don't know, man. We don't know how those other guys impressed that came in and interviewed for the president of football, and we don't know if um, there's any other candidates that we haven't heard of that somebody might be looking at to be a GM to come in to run a team, right? So I can't wait to see who it turns out to be. These are exciting times because this is new for the Atlanta Falcons. For the first time in so many years, um, we got new leadership up top. Size. Of course, the owner's still there, but new leadership at top all the way. Even back, far as back is Thomas Dimitrov, because even when Thomas Dimitrov was here, Rich McKay was there. Um, but he's no longer in the mix as well. So this is completely new leadership. You got Matt Ryan, you got Josh Blank that's back. Um, so it's some good things that's going on here. Good things that's going on here. Um, well, there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think. If you have not seen the press conference from our new president, Matt Ryan, please take a look at it. Um, you know, let me know what things you took away from it. From what I took from it was that his main goal is to come in to help the Atlanta Falcons start winning game, and he's trying to put the right GM and coach in place to do what they're supposed to do, right? Um, and in essence, it will be on him, right? Because if you don't hire the right guys, you don't hire the right guys, you know, you're going to be screwed. It's going to be fall back on your head. But if you don't hire the right guys and you realize you didn't hire the right guys, don't sit on it. Make a change. That's how you fix shit, right? Because you never know. You thought you hired the right guy, but maybe it wasn't. So I'm gonna make a change. You're not gonna just live in it and be like, we're gonna roll with you because I hired you. No, I made a mistake. I'm finna fix it. That's how you hold people accountable. Because I hired you to do a job. You told me you can do the job, but you can't do the job. So I'm gonna go in a different direction. That's what Mr. Blank is looking for, and hopefully Matt Ryan can deliver that. Right. Um, I think one thing, the last thing, is what he said was this was the only organization he would have came to do this with. So that tells you that he has an invested interest in seeing the Atlanta Falcons succeed, right? And to him, it's the same he had when he became the quarterback for Atlanta Falcons in 2008, and that is to try to bring a championship to this team, right? I'll be honest with you, if the Atlanta Falcons can turn into the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know what I mean by just making the playoffs every year, and don't win, at least we'll have something else to complain about. And that's that would be like, oh, we can't win in the playoffs, but at least we can say we make it to the playoffs, right? And so we can't even say that right now. Um, so that's what I want to see. Um, Steps, we can do it in baby steps, right? If we start turning to the team that makes it a playoff every year, okay, cool. Now we just need to take the next step and get to to the NFC or the NFC championship game, right? Okay, now we're the team that in the NFC championship game, right? We could be the Buffalo Bills of the '90s when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost. That would be better than not being in the playoffs year in and year out. I'm just saying, man, like we need some kind of success so we can get there, right? If Matt Ryan can bring us to that kind of success, hey, I think he achieved his goal. the main goal is to win the championship, but we're going to see. T. Terry said Matt Ryan's going into the championship. Hopefully he do. There you have it, guys. My dang light went out, so I'm finna get up out of here because I don't like the darkness. So there you have it. Let me know what you think. Please share my video throughout the YouTube universe to all the Atlanta Falcons fans. Shout out to all you content creators out there that rep the Falcons because hey, we all we got, right? It's like CMB, we all we got. I'm my brother's keeper. I'm my sister's keeper. Let's do this. This is your boy Ricondo. Come back at you with another video. Peace.